Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news. And we've got plenty to talk about. Great to be back doing the news shows. Obviously, they're a bit, I suppose, they're a bit infrequent at the moment, but delighted to be back. And we've got plenty to talk about. Obviously, anybody that's watching on YouTube can see the title is Ten Hag wants Varane and Casemiro to stay. So we're obviously going to talk about that. Obviously, we know Ten Hag, I suppose, has... I won't say fallen out because I don't think he has fallen out with Varane, but hasn't been favouring him. Obviously, Casemiro has been injured most of the season, but two very key players. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other transfer news as well, guys. And that's going on. Manchester United potentially looking at a defensive midfielder from Everton, who we looked at in the summer as well, that might be available again next summer. We've got some updates as well on Anthony Martial, so we'll talk about him. A United target in relation to a centre-back that has open talks with Spurs as well. So United need to start moving if we're going to be, trying to sign these types of players again. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Jim Ratcliffe as well. Some news coming out today in relation to what way he wants to implement new laws at Manchester United in relation to contracts, long-term contracts, payments, all of these kind of things. So plenty to talk about. And as always, get your thoughts into the comment section below. Very interactive tonight. Looking forward to chatting to all of you. Smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Hit subscribe if you're new. Yeah, let's jump straight into it. Anybody watching on TikTok as well, guys, we are putting all of the articles up on the screen over on YouTube. So if you want to jump across to YouTube, we're live over there as well. Link is on my homepage. Come over and check it out. Who have we got in the building? Oshin is in. Good to see you there. Shep is there. Ben is in. Niall is in. Garrett is there. Who else? We've got plenty of people in on TikTok as well. So look, let's get straight into it. And of course, we're going to start with, obviously, the title of the show is in relation to Casemiro and Varane. And as we know, Ten Hag, it's been reported today, this is coming out from Rob Dawson at ESPN, suggesting that Ten Hag does want to keep the experienced pair at Old Trafford. He wants to keep Varane and Casemiro, despite reports linking both players to move away from Old Trafford in January. It's coming from Rob Dawson. He still considers the pair important players in his dressing room and wants them to remain at least until the end of the season. And to be honest with you, this is what I've been saying over the last few weeks with reports, especially with the likes of Varane wanting to, or potentially, reports linking him away from Manchester United. And that, of course, is all down to the fact that he's not getting game time. Now, we do know he came in on the weekend and was man of the match against Liverpool, and he showed his class. He really did. So, I mean, I've been saying it for the past few weeks now that while I do think it is probably, Varane is not the long-term solution. I think that's quite clear. I think at the end of the season is a minimum for him. If reports are to be believed that United are not going to do too much business in in January, then we are going to have to keep these players until the summer because our squad depth is not that good. And you are going to be losing if you are to sell the likes of Casemiro and Varane. You are going to be losing two key players in your dressing room, and not just in the dressing room. You're also going to be losing two high quality players on the pitch as well. So I think it is a no brainer that we do keep Varane and Casemiro, because if you compare this season to last season, and I know it's not the only comparison that we can make. But if you look at, I suppose, the cornerstone of the Manchester United team last year was up through the middle. Varane and Martinez at the back, Casemiro and Eriksen in midfield. And we haven't seen any of that this season, basically, down to injury. And then obviously, Varane hasn't been getting game time the last few weeks. And look, we mentioned it already. I think Varane not getting game time is down to a number of reasons. Obviously, he's injury prone, and I think that's another reason why we should be looking to move him on. I think Real Madrid were going, I think, Real Madrid don't sell players unless they want to. And they sold us Varane knowing, he was approaching 30 at the time. He was picking up knocks, picking up little injuries. And Yeah, and United pounced on it, and we went from finishing second in the league that year to that summer then signing Varane, Sancho, and it was Ronaldo, I think, wasn't it? And we were thinking, right, this is going to be the next step. We need to go and challenge City for the league title, and it didn't work out. But Casemiro, on the other hand, a lot of people saying about Casemiro that his legs are gone, and I think it's a bit premature. I really do. You cannot go from having such a great season last year to having, to all of a sudden, your career is over and that's it. I mentioned this a couple of times before as well. I think Casemiro is the type of player, he reminds me of Wayne Rooney a little bit. When he comes back after pre-season, or he comes back, after the summer break, he might be carrying a bit of timber on him. He's not the leanest of players, and maybe he enjoys himself over the summer. We know Wayne Rooney used to do it, and Wayne Rooney sometimes used to start seasons quite sluggish. But come October, November time, once he gets, game time under his belt, he's ready to rock and roll, and he's only kicking into gear. Now, in saying that, when Wayne Rooney was doing this type of stuff, we had a fucking team around us that were able to, I won't say carry a player like that, but we're able to make up the difference. We don't have that at the moment, So Casemiro being like that, I don't think his legs are gone. I think he'll be a very important part of Manchester United if he's held on to, and that if is a big if, Niall says, Varane, a proper professional. If the rumours were true that he had a falling out with Erik ten Hag, yeah, look, I think this was blown out of the water an awful lot. We've seen it so many times, and not just with players being left out, but in general, the media circus surrounding Manchester United. The media just couldn't wait to jump on this. There's been a falling out. I don't think there was. I think maybe Ten Hag sat him down and said, look, you're injury prone. Harry Maguire's after taking his chance. I want to play both you or Harry Maguire on the right side of the fence. I don't think either of you are suited to the left-hand side. And Harry Maguire was, having a bit of a renaissance. So I think that was the main reason. And I will double down on that and say that if Varane continues to perform like he did at Anfield, then he will keep Harry Maguire bang out of the team. I really think so. Johnny Evans is able to play on the left side. We do know Luke Shaw can fill in there as well. And we'll be hoping that the likes of Martinez is going to be back in the new year as well. So I hope that remains the same. Ben says it makes sense to keep him. And Luke says, do we think this Maguire good form will keep him at the club? It was very obvious he was for sale during the summer. And with the centre-back options, we are short. Well, look, I mean, in relation to Maguire, Luke, I think if he continues to put in good performances, I think Manchester United could potentially keep him. Now, I mean, keeping him, I would be keeping him as a squad player solely. I don't think Maguire is going to turn his career around to the point where he's going to be Manchester United's first choice centre-back. I don't think that's going to be the case. But if he continues to put in performances like this, then why shouldn't Manchester United keep him around as a squad player or as a backup? I just think it makes sense. I really do. But look, in relation to Varane, obviously Manchester United supposedly are, considering their options when it comes to the likes of Varane and when it comes to the likes of Casemiro as well. There's been much talk over the last few days about Real Madrid's possible activity during the transfer window. David Alaba's ACL injury has left Carlo Ancelotti with Antonio Rudiger and Nacho Fernandez as his only senior centre-back options, and the situation could be addressed. So basically what this report is saying is that Real Madrid are potentially looking to go in for Varane if he is going to be available in January for transfer. Now, are they going to go in and looking to buy Varane? I don't think so. I would be very surprised if Varane went back to Real Madrid, and the reason being is Real Madrid will probably want a loan move. And the loan move doesn't suit Manchester United because we'll have to trigger his 1-year extension. He's going to go on loan. Are Real Madrid, if we put an option to buy in the loan deal for Varane to Real Madrid, if that does, accumulate, then Real Madrid are more than likely not going to take up the option to buy in the summer because you'll have David Alaba back and they'll be moving on. They'll probably go into the transfer market and buy a new young centre-back, one of the best in the world, like they do when Varane was that age, whatever it may be. And that's just going to leave Manchester United with another player that goes out on loan that comes back in the summer that we probably should have cashed in on in January if that was going to be the case. So I'm completely against loan moves unless there's an obligation to buy. And the obligation to buy is the big part of it. I think, an obligation means that the team that's taking the player on loan has to buy them in the summer. And obviously that is, that mold of transfer is for a club that maybe financially, I suppose, insecure to say, right, well, look, we'll take him on loan for 6 months and we'll worry about the fee, down the line. And I just don't think that loan offers and loan deals for Manchester United players have any real benefit towards us. We look at Donny van de Beek, for example. His move to Turkey looks like, or sorry, not to Turkey, to Germany, Eintracht Frankfurt, is pretty much done and dusted. But it's a loan move with an option to buy. So if Donny van de Beek goes to Eintracht Frankfurt and doesn't perform well, we're going to be stuck with him again next summer. He's going to be back on pre-season tour and we're going to be going, we can't get this lad off the books, And I like Donny. I think, he didn't have the best of times at Manchester United and, best of luck. Bye-bye and see you soon. The last thing I really want is for players to be coming back to Manchester United after after an unsuccessful loan spell. Now, but with Varane as well, Varane does want to stay at Manchester United. That has been quite clear over the last few days, and plenty of outlets have been talking about it, as we can see here on the screen. Varane is hoping Manchester United will trigger the 1-year extension. Now, we have to trigger that extension by the end of January, I think. Is that correct? I think it's the end of January. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that it's going to be the end of January that we have to trigger that 1-year extension. I think after that, he is open to negotiate pre-contracts with, with any other clubs. And look, it's pretty clear that the smart thing to do from a Manchester United standpoint is to trigger the 1-year deal because you don't want them leaving for free regardless. You want to get that 1-year deal and hope then, if it is in the summertime that you're going to be selling them, that you can get some money in the door for him. And I think that would be the smart thing to do. When it comes to Casemiro specifically as well, he has had offers, as we can see on the screen. He's had important January offers from Saudi clubs. Now, he's reportedly considered leaving Manchester United in the January transfer window. That's according to a recent report from Marca, who claims that the Brazilian has received an important offer from a Saudi club. The South American is expected to be one of the first big-name players to leave Old Trafford, as Erik ten Hag and incoming shareholder Jim Ratcliffe plot a major squad overhaul. Now, again, whatever about Varane, I think Casemiro is the least likely to leave, and the one I want to leave least, because I think he is so important to that middle of the field. Look, we've got Kobe Mainoo there, and he's coming in. He's a young kid. I think he'll learn an awful lot off the likes of Casemiro. I think he'll eventually, Kobe Mainoo is a 6 at the moment, and basically what we've been seeing since he's made his debut is, in that number 6 role. But I think eventually we'll see Kobe Mainoo transform into maybe an 8, further up the field, creating, like a Christian Eriksen or so on and so forth. But I think he can learn an awful lot of Casemiro at the moment, being so young. I think Casemiro has to stay at Man United. I really do. Now, look, it's been quite frustrating that he's been injured. But again, you could see this coming. You really could. I mean, and not just with Casemiro. Last season took such a toll on the Manchester United players. We played basically every game we could possibly play last year. If we had have got to another cup final in relation to the Europa League, we would have played 2 more games. And we literally would have maxed out the whole season. Obviously, you play 38 games in the in the Premier League. We played every single round of the FA Cup. We played every single round of the Carabao Cup. And we played every single round of the Europa League, bar obviously it was the semi-final and final, so it would have been 3 games. So I think for that reason, and then you had a World Cup in the middle, and then after that you had such a short turnover from the end of the season to the start of pre-season, and then we went on a ridiculously long and stupid pre-season tour. So we're seeing the likes of Casemiro picking up these injuries. I think it was inevitable, especially the older players within the squad. So I would be holding on to Casemiro. I really would. And now that we don't have Europe between now and the end of the season, it's going to allow a lot of time in between games where players can rest, they can recover, we can prep for a new game, and Ten Hag can get players on the training ground and start implementing this, like so many people think there isn't one there, but his style of football. I think he's already done that last season, and I think injuries this season has prevented him from doing it. So I think Casemiro has to stay. I really do. Luke says, thoughts on, I don't know who that first one is, and Garassi, been watching a lot of Leverkusen thanks to the dodgy box. So Boniface looks unbelievable, and Garassi's stats look great. But then again, Bundesliga tax like Sancho. Well, look, I don't think you would be looking at a huge tax like we did with Sancho. Sancho was one of the hottest prospects on the planet when we bought him, given what he'd done. Now, Garassi specifically, obviously, I've been looking into him. He's one that we've been looking at quite closely, over the last few weeks, supposedly. And I think, is it 18 goals in 16 games? I think something, he's burning it up. Anyway, he's 27 years of age. The one question I would be asking is, why hasn't he been doing it before now? I am quite wary of it. It's a tricky one. We do need a striker in because Rasmus Højlund can't do it all on his own. And, I think even getting another striker in would take a lot of the pressure off him. I think we probably would see him score more goals if we did. However, I don't want to go out and sign a player that has had a good 3 months, and that's 27 years of age also. Again, strikers are at a premium as well. You're not going to pick up Harry Kane in January, even if he was available. It's things like that just don't happen. So maybe we do have to go for him. I do know that the transfer fee is relatively small. I think, could we get him for potentially, did someone say 17 or 18 million pounds? I think he's got a release clause. Again, that's another thing that worries me. How, I won't say shit, but how unimportant must a club think you are if they put a 17 million pound release clause on your head? You know what I mean? Why put one in there at all? Either it's really, really good negotiating from the player's agent, or the club, when they were buying you, didn't really rate you that much. So again, there are some red flags, but we do need a striker in. So, if it is going to be him, then obviously we will back him and we will wish him well. But would you prefer, we are going to have 2 strikers then. So what's the end goal for the striker position at Manchester United? Do we continue then forever with Garassi and Rasmus Højlund? Or do we go out and try and sign a tier 1 striker in the summer? If Victor Osimhen is available for silly money, or, whoever else may be available. That's something that needs to be answered. I'm sure Ten Hag has an idea in his head. He does want a striker in. It is supposedly that Manchester United are looking for, did I read it correct? Let me see that I remember it right. There was a report the other day saying that I think it's a centre-back first, I think, and then a striker, and then a central midfielder, if that's to be believed. I'm not 100% sure. Luke also says, agree, I think Casemiro is unbelievable, world-class player on his day, even with the comments on his age and weight. Oshin says, I'd keep Casemiro for at least another 18 months, show Manu the ropes and get 10 to 15 million return with 2 years left. Now about the money for him, more about, not about the money for him, more about the experience prices. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Oshin. I think it's you know, I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago that I think Casemiro is minimum 18 months. Well, not minimum. I would be probably looking to move him on in 18 months' time. Like you said there, he will have 2 years left on his contract at that stage. You could then get some money then. I mean, Saudi would probably still be sniffing around him at that stage as well. Oshin also says January is all about loans. Even with Radcliffe, no one top tier is ever available. Well, yes, maybe not top tier players, but there has been some fucking good players signed in January. You know, from a United standpoint, didn't we sign Vidic and Evra in the same January transfer window? You know, so I think there can be deals done in January, but again, I agree with you. It's not them top tier. You know, your Osmans or your Kim Min-jaes or whoever it may be, these top signings that everybody's looking for, they tend to do it, or they tend to move in the summer. Luke says, is Tony off the cards then in January? I think he's off the cards in terms of a price tag, Luke. I think Brentford are looking for too much. I think it's 60 to 70 million. Did I hear correct that they're looking for? So, you know, I would love to have Ivan Toney at Manchester United. I think he would be an ideal signing for us, and I think he would slot in really well. Not that I don't think. I know Man United are not going to spend that money. We just haven't got it. You know, we're still governed by financial fair play, and I think the financial fair play year does it go from March to March or April to April? I think. So the January transfer window will fall into that. And if it was an issue in the summer, it's certainly going to be an issue now. But again, look, we've heard reports coming out that, you know, United are not going to do too much business. We're going to concentrate on the summer transfer window. And I think this is absolute bollocks. And we've heard it before from United. You know, the whole kind of spiel where, you know, we're going to wait until January we're going to wait until the summer and prioritize getting players in the summer. But it doesn't happen. You know, it doesn't happen. We go out then in the summer, you know, we drag our knuckles along the ground for 2.5 months and then we panic buy, you know. If United over the last 3 or 4 years, which we have heard over the last 3 or 4 years, that we're not prioritizing January, we're going to concentrate in the summer, and they actually did go out and buy good players in the summer, then we would say, all right, we believe you. But they haven't done that. You know, they haven't gone out and got first choice options. They haven't, especially with Ten Hag. You know, we didn't get Kane, we didn't get Kim Min-jae, we didn't get De Jong, we didn't get Rabiot. You know, all of these kinds of players weren't signed. And, you know, Harry Kane, for example, his first choice option, he wanted to sign for Man United and we didn't get him. Kim Min-jae's release clause, all that had to be done was triggered, and United didn't bother even triggering it. So, yeah, I think that's all noise as well. Let's see what people are saying on TikTok here. Matthew says, Casemiro is overrated. If he was so good, why is he at Manchester United? Why ain't he at a big club? Yeah, Matthew, you're just a knob that, you know, you might as well be watching badminton if you don't think he's a good player. MUFC says, thank God we defended well against Liverpool last weekend. Today, they absolutely destroyed West Ham. Let's see. Gary says, bring in Neymar in January. Well, he done his ACL, so he ain't going anywhere. Let's see. Are you anyway involved with United that you can air your views? I'm not involved with United. I'm just a fan. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see. Luke says, Nketiah on the market in January for 40 million too. Arsenal won't ever sell him to us, but seems cheap for him. They can keep him. He's not the type of player we're looking for. Love to see a Dan Gore debut in the Premier League at some point throughout the season. Maybe so. Maybe not the Premier League, but yeah, some good up-and-coming players coming through. You know, let's hope we can get some game time. Now, let's talk about midfield because a player that we were linked with in the summer to potentially go in and buy, my God, he took a bad penalty last night, is Amadou Onana of Everton. Obviously, big, strong, powerful central midfielder. Manchester United learned the asking price of him. Potentially, he could leave Everton in 2024. United are believed to be weighing up a move for the Everton stalwart, who could leave in 24. The Red Devils' reported interest comes courtesy of journalist Santi Aruna from Foot Mercato, who claims that Barcelona have ignited their pursuit in the player as well by holding a meeting with his representatives. Let's see. Onana signed for the Toffees from Lille in 2022 and played a pivotal role. It goes on to say, let's see, where's the asking price? Here we go. Dyche and Everton board would undoubtedly be reluctant to part ways with the 22-year-old if European clubs approach. However, they could be forced to cash in order to comply with FFP regulations, which we know has already got them a 10-point deduction. As such, should the time come when the Merseyside outfit decide to sell, they could reportedly demand a fee of around €55 million for the player. I like this player. I don't like his penalties, given watching the penalty he took last night. It was one of the worst penalties I've ever seen. But I like him as a footballer. Big, strong, versatile centre midfielder. And if you are going to be looking at, in the future, moving the likes of Kobbie Mainoo into the number 8 role rather than the number 6, this guy is the guy to sit behind him. And I think he would make a really, really good addition to Manchester United and any club. Obviously, Barcelona are looking at him as well. Arsenal for Life says Onana is coming to Arsenal. Why would he come to Arsenal when you spent 100 million on Declan Rice last summer? Makes absolutely no sense. Nonsense. But yeah, I mean, he would be a very good signing for United. Again, we're probably not going to get all our own way with him. There is going to be other players sticking around, and Everton are playing well this season. Obviously they're just outside the relegation zone, but obviously that's down to the 10-point deduction. If they hadn't have got that, I think they would be 8th or 9th in the league at the moment. So Sean Dyche is doing a great job there. He's not going to want his players disappearing out of that squad too easily. And again, we see that if it is going to be a signing like him we're getting, you're going to have to pay for him. And you tend to pay a lot. I won't say a lot more, but you tend to pay more for players that go from Premier League club to Premier League club, because everybody has been watching him and everybody knows what he's like. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see. MUFC says we should go for Brathwaite if we lose the deal for Todibo. Mario says Ruud van Nistelrooy would be a good manager for Man United. Jerry says won't be taking pens, energetic, athletic, absolutely. Let's see what else people are saying on TikTok here. Let's have a look. Robbo says the staff and board need a damn good sorting out before we sign players. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, absolutely they do. But by all accounts, Jim Radcliffe looks to be coming in and putting down a marker when he comes in. It looks like Jean-Claude Blanc is going to be the new CEO. And then there's obviously been talks of Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell coming in together as two football directors of football, whatever way you like to talk about it. So I do think Jim Radcliffe is putting, reports are suggesting that, he's going to make big changes there. And I think we do need to make these big changes. I really do, because I think the whole structure at Manchester United needs to be, pinpointed and going in one direction. We've seen great success with other clubs who do it. Liverpool over the last few years, Man City over the last few years are obviously the main ones. But we've seen the likes of Brighton doing it the last few years. Southampton a few years back when Paul Mitchell was there as well. The whole club from top to bottom decided on a style of football that they wanted to play. And every employee under that umbrella was all about playing that same way, whether it's owners, director of football, scouts, coaches, managers, players, all fit the mold to play that certain style. And that's what we need to do. Jim Radcliffe comes in, and there's been a lot of kind of people saying, I've seen it, over the last maybe week or so, a couple of weeks actually, since reports were suggesting that United could actually end up with 2 directors of football. It's never been done before. Another stupid move by United. I don't see the problem with it. I mean, a lot of people saying, too many cooks and all that kind of stuff. You're getting 2 if it is going to be Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell in together, you're getting two people who are very, very good at their job. And if you put two people who are very good at their job together, you tend to not get bad outcomes. So I'm all for it. And then we know, we spoke in depth about Jean-Claude Blanc over the last few weeks since, the rumors about him coming in. He has overseen some unbelievable things when it comes to the world of sport. He was over the Olympics. I think he was over, what else was he over? There was another big one. Was it the World? I don't know. No, it wasn't the World Cup. He was over a couple of big things like that. And then we know what he done with Juventus. Obviously, he was part of the backroom team when they got relegated, after they got relegated, to bring him back up to the top of Italian football. Then we seen him going into PSG, and he turned PSG nearly into a brand, behind the scenes. He was responsible for getting Air Jordan to sponsor the PSG, I suppose, jerseys and all that kind of stuff, and turn them into a brand. So he knows what he's doing as well. He knows how to get the money in the door, which is something United need to get good at as well. Because we've got such a massive global fan base that you just need to tap into it a little bit more. And a lot of people have been saying, I've heard over the, and it comes from opposition fans mainly, but, the Glazers were good at making money for United. I completely disagree, because if you look at the trajectory that Manchester United were on financially in the early 2000s, we should be by far and away the richest club on the planet at the moment if that trajectory had been kept going before the Glazers took it over. Now, Manchester United are a juggernaut regardless because of the global fan base and the reach that it has and the brand and so on. But it should be so much better. And again, that's down to the Glazers, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. Kieran says, I don't even care who's there at this point. We need two midfielders who are competent, defending, and can put in a tackle. Spot on. Yep. Oshin says he won't go anywhere until the summer. Everton wants survival guaranteed. Then they'll sell. Not a huge fan of buying players from teams always bottom of the table. There for a reason. Yeah, they're there. 10-point deduction has a lot to do with that as well, though. They actually are playing some good football. How long have we been hearing Radcliffe to be announced next week? Jesus, just get it done. Yeah, and look, there's not going to be an injection of cash before the January transfer window. We're going to be looking at Jim Radcliffe's investment. If there is going to be money there, coming from the investment specifically, that's not going to be there until the summer. It's just too late now. It really is. And again, Glazers, dragging their feet as usual. Luke says, do we think Barcelona still has a pull on players it had 10 years ago? Players surely don't want to go there as much as United anymore with the young players are bringing in. Well, Barcelona is always going to be a massive attraction. The climate, the country, the stature of the club, they're always in the Champions League. They're always challenging, into the knockout stages. Well, not always, but, the majority of the time. If you watch the F1, Mercedes boss was talking about how Radcliffe was nearly confirmed as buying the stake in United and how they were putting in money too. Ineos are the main sponsors of Mercedes. Absolutely, they are. Chris is in. He says he's back. Jack is back. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Be upstanding for the chairman. Evening, Chris. The fucking owner is here. All right. Stand for the owner. Right. Let's move it on and let's talk about some outgoings. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Fabrizio Romano says Anthony Martial is unlikely to stay at Manchester United. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let's have a look and see what he says. Manchester United striker Anthony Martial could be on his way out the door at Old Trafford, and transfer guru Fabrizio Romano has exclusively revealed to Gimme Sports how this could impact any potential incoming. Martial's time at Manchester United has been underwhelming, to say the least, and he could be heading through the exit door in the near future. As it stands, this breaks my heart. The French forward's 250k a week contract is set to expire next summer, meaning United could lose him on a free. Clubs in January will be able to speak to Martial and sign him on a pre-contract agreement unless the Red Devils extend his deal. It was an exciting time at Old Trafford when Martial signed, yet so on and so forth. Eric Ten Hag and his recruitment team brought in Rasmus Højlund during the summer transfer window. As a result, Ten Hag has needed Martial to be the experienced striker, leading by example when given the opportunity. Journalist Dean Jones previously told Gimme Sport that Martial's inconsistency will not be tolerated anymore, and he hasn't been anywhere near good enough since arriving at Old Trafford. He also says it's a miracle that Martial has even lasted this long at United, and a departure now feels inevitable. However, Man United's main issue is that the former Monaco man is currently Ten Hag's second choice in the centre-forward role, and Højlund hasn't set the world alight since signing on the dotted line. Romano then says, Manchester United still don't know how much they want to spend on that position, and also it's going to be important to see what happens with Anthony Martial, who is still out of contract, or who is still out of contract at the moment, or until June 2024. He's unlikely to stay at United for longer, so I don't think they will trigger the clause to extend his contract. And that's why, for Martial's position in January, it is going to be important to understand also that Man United do in that position. So basically, long story short, Anthony Martial's 1-year extension will not be triggered. So either we sell him in January or he goes for free in the summer. Either way, jog it on. Because he has been nowhere near good enough from the day after he scored that goal against Liverpool on his debut. So yeah, I think it's time for Martial to move on, and you know, we're going to talk about Jim Ratcliffe in a minute as well, and there is some interesting reports coming. We'll talk about it now. Actually, I suppose Jim Ratcliffe and Manchester United supposedly are set to make some pretty bold moves in saying that if we cannot get players off the books and, you know, get them sold, whether it would be because of a transfer fee or because they're on such high wages, that United potentially are willing to terminate contracts. Now, terminating contracts would mean you would have to pay off the player and he would, you know, free to leave. I'm fucking all for it. I really am. And I don't see why any Manchester United fan shouldn't be in favour of this, because it's not you or me that's paying this. You know what I mean? It's not going to bring up the price of the jersey next year or the season ticket if we decide to, you know, cash in on Martial or pay off Jadon Sancho's contract just to get him out of the club. I think it's a really smart move, and I think it's a positive step forward. And I suppose the reason why I think what's the word I'm looking for here? The reason why I think terminating players' contracts and maybe paying them off to get them off the books at Manchester United, more than anything else, means that players will come in to Manchester United, any new players, and say, all right, I'm not in charge here. They're in charge. You know, if they don't want me anymore, I'll have to leave, you know. And I think that is a very positive thing. It's setting precedent for players, first and foremost, that we're in charge, whether it be Jim Ratcliffe, you know, Jean-Claude Blanc, whether it be Paul Mitchell, whoever is going to be in charge there. Player power is not going to be tolerated anymore, and fucking rightly so, because it's been going on for too long now. So I'm delighted to hear these kind of things, and long may it continue, and I hope to God that it is implemented. I really do. But yeah, so I mean, that's Anthony Martial. In relation to a potential incoming, obviously we were talking about, sorry, I'll go down through some of your comments here first. Let's see. What have we got here? Wasn't it the Athletic just saying they were negotiating a new contract, apparently from Ten Hag? Yeah, look, I would be absolutely shocked if Anthony Martial is handed a new deal at United. I really, really would. And I think it would cause uproar within the fan base specifically. Chris says, can I drive him free of cost? Luke says, Martial, fourth highest player at United, is mental. Let's see. That hurts my ears. Lead by example. Kieran says, 50 million down the drain. Yeah, Tony Marshall doesn't score again. Let's see. Chris says, read that Malin will be available on loan. That's a guy from Borussia Dortmund as well, I think. we can't afford to pay off Sancho's contract, says Oshin. Yeah, it would be a weird one. I don't know. Could we say to Sancho, we'll give you half of your contract if you just leave. What player wouldn't want that? You could go, right, I'll take half of my contract now. You're just going to sign for someone new anyway. So you get a lump sum and then you'll just get, continue to get wages at a different club, albeit it mightn't be as high as what you were getting at United, but you would have had your payoff from United regardless. So there we go. Luke says, Martial, Mount and Sancho all on 13 million a year, 4, 5, 6 and the highest paid at United from the newest reports. Yep, there we go. Anyway, reports, while we're on it, are talking about Todibo. Fabrizio Romano confirms that Spurs have open talks to sign the Manchester United target. Now, this guy is a player that Man United have been looking at pretty closely over the last 6 months or so. We were linked with him in the summer, didn't go for him. Now, again, obviously, the player is from Nice. We know somebody else from Nice, I think, that might be high up, that might have something to do with it. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the background here. I certainly like Todibo. I would love to sign him. And Spurs opening talks for him. Is that going to put the jitters up Man United to go out and get it done? Absolutely fucking not. So the one Spurs, you want him? All right, go on, sure, you can have him then, I suppose. Yeah. We'll just wait for the next one to come around, like we did with Kim Min Jae. Bayern Munich are triggering the release clause. We won't bother do it as well. So it's just complete naivety out of United. But we need to improve in the centre back area, whether that be January. I would like to see it in January. But again, you worry: is there going to need to be outgoings before incomings come in? And that's a big question. So anyway, this is what Jim Ratcliffe was talking about. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is set to implement a new law at Man United that should have been enforced a long time ago. This is coming from Sky Sports. And so it has to do with contracts. Currently, the club's list of highest earners makes for some truly appalling viewing in comparison to other teams. While valuable players who have both played pivotal roles since signing, aging due to Casemiro and Rafael Varane rake in an eye-watering 350 grand and 340 grand per week, respectively. So as we can see here, this is what it means. Casemiro, 18, this is by year, 18 million. Varane, nearly 18 million. Rashford, 15 million. Martial, 13 million. Mount, 13 million. Sancho, 13 million. Bruno, 12 and a half. And the list goes on. Let me just move it down. Next on the agenda for Ratcliffe. In truth, changes have been required for a number of years now, and Ratcliffe seemingly has his head screwed on when it comes to business. Aside from the wages, overpaying for players is another thing that simply has to stop from next year. United tax has been a thing for far too long now, and clubs taking advantage of silly prices the board are willing to pay has led to some pretty humiliating transfers when all's said and done. And we heard initially, didn't we, when it was reported that Jim Ratcliffe was going to be the winner of the race to invest in Manchester United, that he wasn't overly impressed with the Casemiro transfer, that you're paying massive amounts of money both through a transfer fee and wages when it comes to a player of his age and profile. And I couldn't agree with him more. It's been far too long now where United have been going out and getting these washed players. And look, I'm not saying Casemiro and Varane are washed, because they've been great players for us. But in terms of what we should be doing and who we should be identifying, you can go back as far as you want. Falcao, Di Maria, Ibrahimovic, Edison Cavani, Schweinsteiger. The list goes on and on and on, of players that have a certain age profile that you shouldn't really be looking to fill your team with. And I think that's what's been most disappointing over the last 10 years in the transfer market. We need to be going out and finding them little hidden gems, that 20-year-old from South America that's ready to, take Europe by storm. Get him in there. And then you can, of course, supplement with one or two experienced players, absolutely. But we've got experienced players there. at the moment. You would say Luke Shaw is coming to the age now where he's a senior member, an experienced player. Bruno Fernandes. Onana is already an experienced player, senior player in the goal, in what he's done and what he's won. He's been to a Champions League final, so on and so forth. So there are players there. You should be youth. Go back as far as Matt Busby. Youth. Manchester United was built on youth, and we have to get back to that. We really do. And whether that's youth that's coming through the academy, like Garnacho, like Kobe Manu, but you also need to be in the market for the best young players, and United always done that. They did. Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, even going back to, Andy Cole, the list goes on and on. You could sit here for an hour and say it. And we need to get back to doing that as well. We haven't been good enough in the transfer market. And if you look back at Manchester United's, transfer activity over the last few years, it reminds you of the Liverpool transfer activity in, the 2000s, signing players like Danny Murphy and, fucking, I don't know, Morientes and, just players that are good players, but they're not going to take you to that next level. And I think that's what Klopp done when he came in. Bosch, Salah, Mane, then the next transfer window, Van Dijk, Alisson. And then all of a sudden, your team is transformed in the space of 12 months. You know what I mean? So, like, Man United really do need to improve in the transfer window. And I think, the reports coming out about Jim Ratcliffe encourage me. They do. They really do. We've been mismanaged for so long now that it's about time someone came in and done a half-decent job, because I think we deserve it. It's been far too long, hasn't it? It's been far too long. But yeah, look, let's see what happens in the coming days and weeks. Obviously, we're coming into the busy period with Manchester United in terms of games. Let's hope the Jim Ratcliffe 25% takeover can be ratified and done as quickly as possible, because I want to see Jean-Claude Blanc in there. I want to see Paul Mitchell. I want to see Dan Ashworth, whoever it is, take charge of that football side. Let's start running the ship correctly. Let's get it back on track. It might not be an overnight thing, and we might have to be very patient, and we might have to look at ourselves as maybe and I don't see why we wouldn't have to look at ourselves as anything else other than a project like Newcastle are on at the moment. Just because we're Manchester United doesn't mean that we should expect to be challenging for titles any quicker than the likes of Newcastle are doing, with the amount of money that they're investing. So if Jim Ratcliffe is to come in, put the right people in the right place, we are still probably going to take a couple of years before we start going, all right, this is starting to look good. We're seeing, the results of what we're doing behind the scenes here. And I think if we can do that, we need to be patient as fans. And back Ten Hag, because I think he's the man to do it. I really do. But yeah, guys, look, really appreciate everybody that's on. If you haven't already done so and you're watching on YouTube, please do take a second and hit the thumbs up button for me. Helps out the channel better than you could understand. Please do hit subscribe as well. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there before the end of the season. We're up to, what are we up to at the moment? I think we're up to over 6,500 or nearly 6,500, I think. Let me get through the last few comments here before we go. Let's see. Thoughts on Bellingham Jr., says Oshin, apparently very interested. I hope we're not buying him for the name. That's all I will say. I don't know an awful lot about him, but I hope we're not buying him just because he's a Bellingham, I think that kind of happened with the De Silva twins, didn't it? We wanted Raphael, but they came kind of as a package deal, and we had to buy Fabio as well. You know what I mean? So, but look, we'll see what happens. DJ says, welcome to Spurs, Tadibo. Yeah, probably just, as I don't know, as nailed on as you could possibly expect. But anyway, guys, look, I appreciate everybody watching. Please just smash the like in the video, hit subscribe. Like I said, I'm going to try and do another one of these tomorrow night. If not, actually, what we might do is I do want to get the Football Manager series up and running again. We've got 3 episodes in. Haven't done one in a couple of weeks, so I want to get back at that as well. We're doing that obviously live on YouTube for a couple of hours. So I've got to potentially try and do that tomorrow night. And then, of course, we've got the watch along on Saturday as well. I will have the match preview up on the YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening sometime. So keep an eye out for that as well. Give it a watch, give it a like, put a comment in underneath. It helps us out, as I said. And then, of course, we'll see from 12 o'clock on Saturday for the watch along as well. Big game against West Ham. Obviously, they got a bit of a scutcheon today off of Liverpool, but they're having a pretty decent season, in fairness to them. I think they're in 8th, I think. Only a position or 2 behind us in the league. So it's going to be a difficult one. But yeah, looking forward to it, guys. Plenty coming up over the next few days. Hope to see you throughout the next few days as well. Have a good evening, and I'll catch you in a bit. Take it easy.